Welcome back to the Expanded Minds podcast, Nakula. It's going to be part two.
Part two, buddy. I love it, man. I appreciate you having me back.
Of course, of course. So, how has your day been? Did you go to the gym today? What kind of things did you do?
Yeah, gym will be later today. This evening will be gym, shoulders and triceps today. And today has been mainly going through. So I got a bunch of guys coming through my Powerhouse Man training. And so at least once a week, I do a check-in with each of the guys, go through where they're at, how they're doing in the program. So I've been doing that, just contacting all the guys in between the meetings I have. And my day always starts off with a strong morning routine, which includes mantra meditations, alchemy practices, and my affirmations. So my first 2 hours of my day is always on meditation, sexual alchemy, and affirmation. So consciously creating or speaking to my own subconscious mind. And then I get into my sales calls. So I do 25 reach outs every day or conversations based upon moving guys forward or educating guys and inviting them to join me on calls to learn more about the training. And then that generally takes me up to like 11, 12 o'clock. Then my schedule opens up for meetings. So my schedule's open from noon till 6 for meetings. So you could book a meeting with me, connect with me, either for my current students or guys who may be wanting to work with me in a deeper way. And in between those meetings, I'm also, just answering emails and all that kind of stuff. I generally take my day till about 6 p.m. Then 6 p.m., I'll eat something, go to the gym for about an hour and a half, and then get home and spend the rest of the time with my wife or just going for a walk, doing whatever. And I do that about 4 days a week. And the rest of the time, I'm either filming videos or just unplugging, doing some fun that I like to do.
That sounds awesome. And you're fired up. I can tell you're just on fire right now. Just your energy is
Yeah.
just on fire.
Yeah, I had some great non-ejaculatory sex earlier, so that energy is just vibing through me. Now I'm just like, oh, come on. Who wants it? Who wants it? Who wants to change their life?
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you go during 6 p.m. That's a lot of people probably at the gym, right?
Yeah, I quite honestly, I don't like going right at 6 because it's the most packed time, right? All the 9 to 5ers get off, and nothing wrong with being a 9 to 5er. It's just a practical thing. Like you go to work, and then most people head to the gym right when they're done work. So I like to go a little bit after if I can. I like to eat dinner first, then go a bit after. Ideally, I would go in the morning because my energy is the highest in the morning, but it's not practical when I'm running my business. I like to use my highest energy peaks for content creation and sales so that I'm absolutely at my highest. Now, the beauty is because I practice alchemy and retention, generally I have good energy throughout the day, but I'll also take a nap throughout the day, a 15, 20-minute nap if I need it. So I just listen to my body and what it needs. But yeah, it's 6 o'clock, man. It's gym is packed. I don't like waiting around. Like, you're trying to get on a machine or something and you got to like stand there. So I tend to do other things while people are doing that. If I go a little bit later, then it dies off and that's cool too. But you know what? You got to go with the flow, right? You can't make everything perfect. At least
Yeah.
I try, but I know it's not practical. And honestly, I believe living that way, like where, you try to make, I'm pretty, I don't know what the word is, right? Like it's like I can be like impatient, intense when it comes to my business. But that's what's required to operate your not impatience, that's not necessarily required, but a certain level of intensity is required to generate. At least my business is at a multiple six-figure business right now, and that's what it's required. And so most people generally don't know how to operate that way or not used to it, or they think like it's draining. But for me, it's inspiring and it is what is required to operate at a higher level. And that's why alchemy and semen retention, the things we've been talking about, is so important. What it does is it drives a man to operate at a higher intensity. And same thing with your workouts. Like I noticed anybody who works out knows two guys can go to the gym, hit the gym, let's say for 6 months straight. At the end of the 6 months, same routine, same everything. One guy has better results than the other. And generally, if you look at what is the difference will come down to the intensity in which they work out. So there's a big difference between going to the gym and just like, just kind of like whimsically, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to lift a few weights or, but I go to the gym. I have a set plan. I know what I'm doing. And I try to move my work through my workouts with intensity. And it's the same way when I'm generating income. Like when I'm working, it's like, all right, next, because it takes efficiency and it takes intensity. So the amount of focus and intense focus you can bring to whatever you're doing is actually going to enhance the results and experience in whatever you're doing. And that's why these practices are so powerful, especially for business people or men who want to, accelerate their business. You add alchemy and transmutation, just like Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich. It's going to 10 times everything you're doing without actually changing what you're doing. But just because you're coming with such high vibration and focus, that is going to have weight to it and is going to get people to be attracted. People are going to be like, I want to operate at that level too. And then you're able to attract people that way.
Exactly. It's like a combination of like being on your toes and like being assertive. It's kind of like what you're saying.
100%. Like when it's time to make money, when it's time to get on calls, when it's time to do your thing, you want to eliminate distractions and you want to get to it. And that's why, I know, because a battle that I faced in my own life was smoking dope, right? And I'm clean now, which I'm very grateful for. But I've had battles on and off, smoke, don't smoke, smoke, don't smoke, that kind of stuff. It is a 100% difference in what I'm able to produce when I'm clean. So that's why I have such a strong message about keep yourself clean. Actually, I saw a good quote today. It said, keep your blood clean, keep your body lean, and keep your mind sharp. These 3 things, and you can essentially achieve anything that you really are desiring to achieve. And something that's also meant for you. I'm hesitant with like these overly motivational lines that are like, you can achieve anything you want. The reality is I will never be a professional basketball player. I am 5'7" and not like that quick on my feet. Like, right. Like my skill set is in my mind. Like I can work with my mind. I'm very sharp of mind. My skill set isn't physical in that way. Right. So, I when we kind of live in this woke era where everybody's like, you can do whatever you want and you can be whatever you want. And there's some elements to that, but there's also limitations to that. Being a 5'7" guy who's not that like athletically prone doesn't make me giving myself the dream to be an athlete would be not smart for me. And sometimes we don't want to hear that because maybe we're told as a young age, you could be anything you want. But then you have to be practical. Okay, imagine me against LeBron James, like 7 foot, just built like a tank, right?
Yeah.
I don't stand a chance, I got a buddy who's a professional MMA fighter. This guy's a tank. I sparred. I won't even call it sparring. He allowed me.
You just showed up?
Yeah, so pretty much. He showed me a few things. He lightly tapped me with his shin on my thigh. Oh my gosh. Like I was like, if this guy actually hit me, he would just break me in half. Right? So I think it's important that we're honest about what our limitations are. See, honesty sets you free. Honesty sets you up for success. If I'm honest with myself, I'll say, nah, if I go for being a professional athlete, good chances are I'm not going to make it because I'm not built like a professional athlete is. So, but then if I'm also honest, I'm like, I've got some great gifts. I can communicate well. I can speak well. I can rally people. I can convey a message well. Why not set myself up where I play to my strengths? I truly believe that God gave everybody talent. God gave everybody skills. Nature didn't leave anybody out. You know, some guys come to me and they'll be like, I'm not attractive. Bull. You're just not playing to the things that make you attractive, right? Everybody has attractive qualities. But if you try to, like, if I try to be like, okay, what's going to be attractive to me? I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene.
No, I read 48 Laws of Power. I haven't read the
Oh,
Seduction.
48 Laws of Power is amazing too, right? So The Art of Seduction is really, really cool because he talks about these different archetypes. And he basically says the same thing that I'm saying. Everybody can seduce everybody, but you have to play to what is naturally yours and amplify those qualities. Right now, we live in a kind of a narrative where people feel like they should make up where they're weak. Oh, I'm not good at I'm not good at XYZ. So going up in school, I was never very strong in math. So most people would say to me, you got to get good at math. My mindset now is no, I hire an accountant because he's freaking awesome at math, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm good at is communicating, speaking, training. So I'm going to double down and triple down on what I'm good at. And I'm going to make money doing that. And then I'm going to leverage what I'm not good at. So I only need to know a little bit so I know that I'm not getting screwed over, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to try to hone or develop my weaknesses. I'm going to leverage, team up, or hire out my weaknesses. And I'm going to focus on my strengths, because if I focus on my strengths, then I can really excel. And that's also true in the bedroom. And that's true for business. And I believe that's just true for overall life. So be honest with yourself, right? Say, where am I good? And if someone says to me, I'm not good at anything, bullshit, don't believe you. You just either have a poor self-image or you've learned to play victim to get attention. And either way, it's not serving you.
Of course, yeah. It's in those, like, when you're not honest with yourself, you can get easily caught up in illusions. And so when you enter into the unknown, then anything can look alluring to you. So as you're trying to make certain deals, it's like anything can look alluring to you, and you easily get seduced by whatever's out there. And this kind of leads to the topic of today, which is about power and learning how to also find the strength within you and use that, cultivate that, and become a higher level of individual. So one of my first questions about power is, how does I'm gonna say S3X. Let's use that term just because the algorithm.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing that too on my channel. I remember. I forget sometimes. S3X.
S3X. So how does S3X, money, and power all tie in together?
Okay, so power, the definition of power means the ability to do. So when someone says, like, my training is called the Powerhouse Man. So power means the ability to do. When someone has power, they have the ability to get things done. Think of like someone like a CEO is powerful because they can make a decision, and maybe, you know, if it's a massive company, 30,000 people will follow that decision. That's power. A president makes a decision. That's power. Someone with a weapon has power because they're like, you don't come here, we bomb you. That's a type of power. So power is the ability to do. What we got to understand at our basic, and this is true for men and women, is that our S3X energy is our ability to create and to do in this world. It's what actually gets up, it makes us go. So, for example, when we understand that from a biological perspective, our S3X energy is the same energy that makes us get up and go to work, then what we realize is if we cultivate high amounts of S3X energy, we're cultivating high amounts of energy, and energy is ultimately power. Like, we literally say, hey, I got to plug this in. I need power, right? Like, oh, I got to plug in my phone. I need to power it. So energy and power are one and the same. Who has the highest energy has the power. Who look at all the wars that are fought. They're all based upon oil, money, resources, because it's power. So money is also a form of power, because money makes things happen. For example, I'm renovating a building right now. I'm not personally renovating that building, but I've got a guy working for me renovating that building. That's a type of power because I pay him money, and that money, because he wants money, he's willing to act, put his energy into the building and renovate it. So once you start to understand that it's all about power, that S3X is the ultimate power because it's our basic motivator. It's a survival instinct. So there's a few things that the body is designed to do. One is to eat. That's a type of power. That's why if you want a better life, eat better. Because what you eat turns into energy or fuel, which powers you. So if you put crappy food in your body, you have crappy power. You don't have the ability to do nothing because the very fuel you're putting into your body is of a low quality. So your ability to do things is of a low quality. The second thing that the body is designed to do is sleep. So we all need to eat. We all need to sleep. High quality sleep gives you energy. So it's another form of power because it's another form of giving ourselves good amounts of energy. When we get poor sleep, when we stay up all night, when we are doing drugs or alcohol or eating crappy, all of that is messing with our hormones, which is messing with our energy, which is messing with our level of power or the ability to do or accomplish in this world. The third thing is defend or comfort. So there's a certain level of comfort that the body is requiring. Now, this one is interesting because actually denying yourself comfort gives you power. We need a certain amount of comfort. Like when we are like totally uncomfortable, this weekend I was at myself and my wife, we were at this Airbnb kind of like off grid. It wasn't totally off grid, but it was like this, kind of cabin style Airbnb that we were staying at. Really nice. And
Up
it was
in the mountains
great.
or where at?
It was just out in like kind of like a forest kind of field area, like a homestead, just outside the city. And so it was really nice. Great place, super peaceful, except like the bed was uncomfortable. So when I woke up in the morning, I kind of had like my back was like hurting a bit. And I was like, So my ability, when you have a good sleep and a nice rest and you get up in the morning, you'll recognize you have more power. You have more ability to get things done. So right when I got up, it was like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. So my motivation to just get up and get going wasn't there. So you can see how our rest will affect our performance throughout the day. Now, comfort in excess, especially for men, is negative because we are not designed to be comfortable in that way. We want to push our comfort zone. So, for instance, the Stoics, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Aristotle or Socrates, one of the big Stoic philosophers. He would sleep on a hard bed on purpose just to add discomfort to his day, just so he got used to putting himself in uncomfortable positions. So we can use comfort and discomfort strategically to actually level our life up. And the fourth thing that the body is desiring is S3X. S3X at its most basic function is for reproduction and for children. That is its design. So that is why it's a survival tool. When you are searching for S3X, you're basically saying, I am ready to reproduce. I am ready to give the opportunity for my seed to have the opportunity. My DNA wants to reproduce itself so that my DNA can continue its lineage on the planet. When we practice semen retention and we withhold that, so for example, like I said, you're like, man, you're on fire today. I can tell. Like, yeah, because I had great non-ejaculatory S3X. So all of that desire is still in me right now. But because I'm not having S3X right now and I'm not pursuing it right now, I'm talking to you, right? You're like, thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Hallelujah. Right? It's like that energy and desire is still in me, but it's being transmuted or alchemized. This is the secret of S3X alchemy, is that that same motivation and desire and energy, that power is in me, but now it's being used in service to the men and women and the people connecting on your show. It's now being used in a way that's bringing energy and information to others. But because I'm filled with energy, it comes across powerful. It comes across with, chutzpah behind it, right?
Yep.
So once we recognize that S3X is a basic motivator and we become conscious of it, we can see how it's playing out in our life. For example, why do men want to have a ripped body? It makes
Look
us more
appealing to the
attractive.
other opposite gender.
But yeah, it makes us more attractive. Why do we want to build big businesses and drive fancy cars? It's a sign of status. And what is status? Status is power because people are attracted to those with status. And as men, it helps us get laid. That is the truth. And we've built cultures and societies and all kinds of things over that truth. But once you recognize that is your basic motivation, then you can start to use it consciously and you start to become aware of when it's misused or overused, then it becomes detrimental. So, for instance, many men's S3X energy or drive is getting them to do the ability to do is getting them to go and visit the hub and spend hours there. That is a misuse of that energy. Now, you have free will and choice, so great. If you want to spend your life doing that, fine. But every minute you spend on the hub, like let's say you're a coach, let's say you're a men's coach. This is how I think, okay? Let's say you're a men's coach, so you're in the same space I'm in. Every minute you spend on the hub, I'm spending prospecting your clients. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Every minute you spend for when I'm up at 5:30 and 6 a.m. into my morning meditation and you're still sleeping, I'm attracting your clients. So as men, we compete. When we realize that we compete and you start to think that way, you start to recognize I better use my energy wisely if I want to actually excel or be successful or be in the top 5% or 1% of what I do. And that goes for if you're a real estate agent or you want to climb the corporate ladder or you want to be the best musician or the best teacher or the best father. It doesn't matter. Whatever you desire, if you want to be the best at it, then you have to direct your energy into it. Your business needs attention. And if your S3X energy is what's in control, meaning you don't know when it's time to shut that down and get to work, then you will be beat out by the others who are working. And it's as simple as that. So understanding money, power, and S3X, to me, they're all one and the same. They're just different expressions of the same thing. The most raw physical expression is S3X itself. Everything else is just designed to help you get S3X.
Exactly. I mean, one thing I thought of too was like, you know how like when there's like stuff out there, videos out there where they talk about how, when you hang out, when you're with a girl and then your friend comes along and all of a sudden he becomes a comedian, like he's all funny and stuff. Like a lot of people they'll engage their S3X center and the creativity and the funniness, the humor and the wit will come out. So when they're with their friend's girl, because they feel some kind of attraction to her, even though, it's your friend's girl. They'll go ahead and, try to be all charming and witting to attract her to him. So engaging your S3X energy allows you to be more creative and more light and more funny and more, attractive in general. And
S3X energy. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich says that there will never be a preacher, a speaker. He actually gives like a few different professions. He says there will never be a preacher, a speaker who will be successful and who lacks in S3X energy. There's no leader, no genius that lacks in this energy. That the most successful men on the planet are also the most men. Because, and I do this whole testosterone training about 9 ways to naturally boost testosterone inside of my course. And I talk about, because one of the ways to naturally boost testosterone actually is to flirt with women, pursue women, and have S3X. Because when you're actually like, okay, I know this, man. Like, okay, so we started the conversation, or this part 2 with the gym, right? All right, so there's beautiful women at the gym. No doubt. I experienced this yesterday. I was doing bench press. And then this girl with just like a great booty walks by, and I see her in the mirror. Well, I'll tell you, my next set, I was like, wah. And because I'm very like in my body, meaning I'm very aware of how my body is reacting to things, because that's what the alchemy meditations that I teach do. They make you heighten. I have a heightened awareness about how my body is talking to me. When I see a woman that I find attractive, even I have no interest in pursuing her. I don't know her. I have no interest in this woman. This is not like oh my gosh, like I'm going to go hit on every woman that I find attractive. That's not the case. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just heightened to how my body responds to when I find someone attractive. And here's what I know. Your body, so when your brain receives signals that there are women around that your body finds attractive, what happens is your glands, your hormones, start to react to that signal. Hey, there's a hot booty chick, right? And what it does is it says, hey, you should be in your masculine right now. So it stimulates, it sends signals to the pituitary glands. The pituitary glands produces 2 types of hormones that take a ride down to the bloodstream to the testicles, and the testicles then produce testosterone. When you are pursuing women or flirting with women or around attractive women or women you find attractive, you are actually telling your body to produce more testosterone, and that's why your charm all of a sudden turns on. That's what you're talking about, right? Then you're all of a sudden you're cracking jokes, and you're like, hey, what's up? And you're like, all your personality comes out. And that's what's needed to be attractive. So that's why you don't want to be depleting your energy on the hub. You want to keep that energy within you so that when you actually get around real women, all of a sudden everything starts to be heightened. And then you want to be in control of it. So Jordan Peterson has this saying that says a man should be dangerous, but then be in control of it. And that's where the virtue is born, right? So I have my version of that saying, which is every man should be horny and learn to control it, because that's where his greatness is born. Because the mixture between your raw animal drive mixed with your higher intelligence. My higher intelligence tells me, okay, chick with hot booty walk by at the gym. Great. Raw animal part of me goes, go after her. Higher intelligence kicks in and says, no, that's stupid. I'm here to work out and to get my body in line. Use that same drive and alchemize it now into your workout. And next thing you know, I'm sticking an extra 10, 15 pounds on that bench press, and I have the adrenaline and the energy to push it. It's the same thing with my sales calls. It's the same thing with any aspect of your life. So this is the process of S3X transmutation that Napoleon Hill talks about. Now, I've put it into a process so that you can become so aware of it and you can use it. And then for guys on the spiritual path, for guys who want more consciousness, and want to understand who they are as a spiritual being, you have to transmute that energy, because if you keep your S3X energy only expressed at the physical level, then you'll only identify as a physical being. But once you, that's why like swamis or priests or, sifus or, great spiritual leaders all have some teachings around semen retention or alchemy, because to identify as a spiritual, to know yourself as spiritual and not physical, you have to have control over that energy at bare minimum. Does that make sense? Did I answer the
Makes
question?
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense, because I mean, when I've observed it from an energetic perspective, I got to the point where I can see the spark enter into me, and then I can see it ignite inside of me, and then I catch on fire, and then that's when I put the energy into it. So I'll see the little spark of attraction. It's just like a little spark comes to you, and then you just ignites the entire thing. So
Love it.
another thing too that is in Napoleon's Hill or Think and Grow Rich that he mentions is that when that's stimulated, the S3X energy is stimulated, you can take your mind to heights and you can penetrate your thoughts into higher planes of thought that can take you into sort of a genius level. So that when we talk about being mentally sharp, when you're mentally sharp, you're able to cut into such depths of thought that the average person isn't able to do, which is, makes a difference between somebody who's a CEO and runs a business versus somebody who's a consumer. Someone who's a genius and who's a CEO is someone that can create and go into the depths of their mind, and then think from that place, and then unfold whatever they need to get unfolded. So can you talk to me about how you can stay mentally sharp and go into those places to cut into those dimensions and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so what happens when we're retaining and our body's producing more testosterone and we're also recirculating the semen within the body, our body is starting to purify itself, cleanse itself, which allows us to then vibrate higher. So we're all vibrational beings. We all have an energy. And as that energy vibrates higher or quicker, stimulates. This is why we like drugs, right? Like for me, right? Like I talked about like smoking dope, right? Smoke a joint. Like if you're clean and you smoke a joint, almost everybody will tell you all of a sudden they start getting these like massive like ideas, right? Right? It's like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
like that's why artists like drugs and stuff. And actually, Napoleon Hill addresses that as well. He says, like, yes, the problem with it is not sustainable, right? Like if I smoke a joint right now because I'm clean, if I smoked a joint, my thoughts would go like I would tap into all these creative heights. The problem is tomorrow I'd feel dull, and then I would need to try to smoke another joint, and you can never repeat it again. So the drug route can give you a window into what's possible, but it's not sustainable. That's why it's not the good route to take. But it gives you the window. So it's like, oh, now that you're like, okay, how do I do that without the drugs? That's like the real secret, right? Because that's sustainable. So what happens is when we practice retention and we transmute that energy, so we take it from our lower centers and we draw that energy up and we put it into our brain, then our brain through retention starts to vibrate at a higher level. Well, think about when you vibrate something at a higher level, it starts to tune differently. Like think of a guitar string, right? It's like tuning the guitar string and you're starting to tighten the guitar string. So when you pluck it, the vibration is of a higher frequency. So your brain is starting to get stimulated at a higher level because your creative or S3X energy is now aroused and running through you, which is allowing your brain to vibrate at a higher level. Well, you have to remember that your thoughts are not yours. So Nikola Tesla, as well as Albert Einstein, so arguably two of the most smartest geniuses on the planet, right? That we know of to walk the earth, both agreed on this same subject, which is that the brain is a receiver and transmitter. If your receiver is vibrating at a higher level than most men, you are going to receive what Napoleon Hill called inspired thoughts or tap into the ether. Infinite intelligence is what he referred to it, or the Akashic records. I have a whole video on my channel about semen retention and the Akashic records. The word Akash is a Sanskrit word. It means ether. So Napoleon Hill calls it infinite intelligence. In the Bible, I believe it's referred to as the book of life, which is not a physical book. It is a metaphysical book. It's a metaphysical principle, which is a vibrational frequency in which we can tap into the infinite intelligence which has designed the universe. So this same infinite intelligence is within us. And when our brain is vibrating at a higher frequency, we can tap into that thought and we can receive higher thoughts or more penetrative thoughts or thoughts that allow us to get to our goals quicker. So rather than having to go the long route, you go through the smart route. You work with your mind instead. And think of like so that's the receiving part of the brain. The transmitting part is that when your body is clean and you are vibrating at a high level, so you have lots of energy, S3X energy, which is creative energy, and you think a thought and you hold that thought, this is where S3X magic, this idea of S3X magic comes into play. So ancient people like the Druids, like the Egyptians, like some of the tantric Buddhists and Hindus. There is in some of the Gnostic in Christianity. So different wisdom traditions from all around the world. They have different ways of describing it. Talked about these practices where they were heighten their S3X energy and then focus. And I teach this in my alchemy course, and focus on the thing that you're looking to attract and watch how the literal matrix universe will bring it into your life quicker because you actually have more penetrative thoughts. Your thoughts are actually leaving you at a higher frequency. I'll give you another example of this, how this practically plays out. Swami Vivekananda, who is a famous, like guru type from India, he gave a speech at the World Religion Forum. So we're all religious leaders from all different religions come together to speak about, their religions, God, culture, the things that they discuss at these forums. And he got a standing ovation. He basically became famous after this speech. Someone asked him, why did your speech, there's tons of speeches, but yours seemed to stand out, right? Why did your speech have such an impact on all these religious leaders? And he said, because I have no in my thoughts. He said, so my thoughts are of a higher nature, so it could penetrate into others' hearts easier. So he knew why. And he says, because I don't dwell on these things. So my thoughts aren't going. So remember that your body is a reflective of your consciousness. If you're thinking, whatever you're thinking about and your dominant thoughts is ultimately what is making up or influencing the chemistry of your body. And your body is a conduit for energy to flow. So the chemistry of your body is giving off the real energy of what you're sending out, or the frequency in which you're sending out into the world. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. When I think of it too, there's different things that have happened. I'm trying to piece together here. But one thing you mentioned is, in some of your videos, is that when you get horny and stuff, it's like that's when your S3X energy activates and you feel a surge of energy. And so there's been times where I felt that surge of energy in out of body experiences, and where you mentioned how when you project and hold a thought, like I've been in states where my S3X energy will surge up, and then I'll have a thought all of a sudden when I start thinking something, it starts projecting out of my third eye right here, and then I see the thought get manifested like that. And this happened to me a couple of times, and I couldn't control it though. It was way too intense. I was like, oh my God, it's a lot. But that is real, like what you said right there.
Yeah, the first time I had an out of body experience, and I haven't had it many times, but the first time is when after I started, just when I just first started practicing retention, and I was also like super clean. And also, I was meditating a lot and I wasn't watching much TV or anything. So my energy was just at a higher, really higher level. And I was kind of in the state like just when you're about to like fall asleep. And I was meditating in bed and like, it felt like it's funny because it was weird because it felt the best way I can describe it is like, like an elevator, how an elevator's dropping, but you
Yeah.
feel kind of like you're going up. It was
Mhm.
like that. I felt like I dropped, but I actually popped out of my body. So my etheric body, so my subtle body, I popped out of my physical body and I actually had floated above my body and I was conscious. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm traveling out of my body. And I went right to the end of my bed and then I got freaked out and I went, whoa, and I went back into my body because I was like, whoa, this is what I freaked out. I was like, whoa. So,
Oh,
like you can, when you get really serious about these practices and this lifestyle, you start to realize that the potential within you and who you are and how powerful you are is tremendous. And then you can also see clearer into the world. You see, and you start to see the lies and the bull and how there are systems of control literally designed to keep you not discovering this. Because if you have very powerful beings on this earth, you actually create such a planet where you don't need big government systems. You don't need big institutions because everybody is working in harmony with nature. Everybody knows how to manifest. And people will respect each other. People will love each other because once you recognize that, oh my gosh, like I am so much more than this body and this mind, and I am also connected with everybody. Like I've taken shrooms and had psychedelic experiences on mushrooms. And anybody's taken mushrooms, depending on their experience, like knows that they have this like deeply connected feeling, right? Like now I don't recommend this as a lifestyle. Again, you don't need it to get there. Literally, the last time I took mushrooms, the message that came through to me was, "You having a good time?" I was like, "Oh yeah, never again, dude." That was the message.
wow.
Stop it. Enjoy this experience because again, it's like a window. It shows you what's possible. But I heard the message loud and clear. But this is not the way. You can do this and feel this way and be as connected to the infinite and to the oneness that is everything while remaining individual. So you're one and separate at the same time. But it's but you don't need anything outside of yourself. You need to put in the work and achieve it so that it's sustainable and it's an actual lifestyle as opposed to something that you need a substance to take to reach it. But go ahead.
I want to go a little bit into like transcendence a little bit because
Yep.
if you think of it right now, there's so many things going on at once. I mean, you run your own business, so your business is going in a certain direction. Like everything's going forward, even though sometimes we may feel like we're going backwards, things like that. But everything will go forward. The city has to run, so everything is going forward, and so life is just going on and it's happening. And when you self-reflect and look at yourself, you're also going in a certain direction as well. And so with all these things happening at once, it's like, how do you find transcendence and peace and stillness despite everything going on? And so part of transcendence is getting yourself above what's happening and then viewing it for how it is and learning how to control then the streams of things that are going on. And so can you talk about maybe silence or maybe how you can kind of transcend some of these things and have clear vision on what to do in your life and things like that? Like how do you overcome these things, gain power, and then look at things and begin to move your life in the direction that it should go.
The outside world is always changing and fluctuating, but the inside world can remain still. And so that's the idea, is to achieve inner stillness, inner peace, while interacting with the moving and ever-changing external world. And the way that I don't consider myself a transcended being, but my experience so far tells me that the way to achieve transcendence is to be unattached or in a renunciance position. Now, renounced means not that you become a priest or a monk or something. That's an expression of renunciation. It's an archetype of renunciation, but renunciation essentially means you recognize that I am spirit. I am not the body or mind. I am not the labels. I am not a coach. I coach in the world, but I am not a coach. I am in a man's body, but at a deeper level, biologically, I'm a man. Yes. But at a deeper level, I am consciousness. So as we become more and more identified as consciousness, as spirit, the more we live from our inner awareness, then the less attached we become to the ups and downs and the ever fluctuating karmic reactions of this world, until eventually that eventually becomes still as well, because we've purified that. We've gone through the things we've needed to go through, and we could come to a place of a very like still peace within us. So the way to transcend is ultimately to transcend the body and mind, and that journey is inward, never external. If you're serious about the spiritual path, then you got to take on spiritual practices. That's why spiritual practices exist. All religions, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, are all designed to help you transcend the material world. That's why they all have some kind of practices. You know, we go to church, we worship, we read the scriptures. Why? Because they teach us things. They give us principles that allow us to transcend our desires. They allow us to purify our heart. They allow us to see life internally from a higher perspective. And so as you expand your consciousness, your awareness, your perspective, then you begin to transcend all the things that most people are generally caught up on, right? You don't, it's just not really important to you anymore, because you're just like, well, that's impermanent anyways, right? Why am I giving so much attention to something that's impermanent? Why don't I give attention to what's permanent? Oh, what is permanent? Consciousness. Because when I die, my body is going back to the earth. My mind is subtle, so my mind can change. We've experienced that. How many of us have had change our minds on things? You know, I've changed my mind on things. I've learned new information, and I changed my mind on that, right? Like there would have been a time if there would have been a time that this conversation, if I was listening to this conversation, I would have been like, well, these guys are whack. Right? These guys are whack. These guys are out there talking some nonsense. Let me go on the hub. You know what I mean? Like that's what's up, right? Look at this hot, right? But my mind is different now, right? So now I think the hub is nonsense, and I would prefer to do this conversation instead. So we can see that our mind changes too. So our mind is also not permanent. The good news is that if you're not liking your life, or there's aspects of your life that you want to change in this world, then you have to change your mind. Literally, you have to change your mind about it. You have to think differently, hence Think and Grow Rich, or, you know, you have to self-identify in a new way. And if you want to transcend, you're like, I want to know myself completely as a transcendental or spiritual being, then you have to take on transcendental activities. So selfless service, not being renounced, not being attached to things, giving up lower pleasures, drugs, alcohol, S3X, so that you're giving up the bodily needs and you're really focused on the spiritual needs. And what is the need of the soul? What I've learned is love. This is where the idea of like love as comes into play, is that actually what is needed, what the soul wants more than anything is loving exchange, relationship. And when you have good loving exchange, you notice it's just so uplifting and good. Like this conversation for me, I'm enjoying our exchange. This is a type of loving exchange. We're exchanging in the mood of friendship. Like, you're asking me questions or answering, we're sharing experiences. That is, the soul loves this. This is all the soul is really interested in. The body needs some money, so it buys food. The body needs, right? The body needs and the soul needs don't necessarily coincide. So we should take care of the body, but we shouldn't give overemphasis to the bodily needs. Our emphasis really at the human form of life should really be focused on the soul needs, because we are the human form of life. We can know what the soul is, and we can have different rasa, or different rasa means a relationship. So me and you are having a loving exchange of ideas and conversation in the mood of friendship. Then there's like different types of relationships. So myself and my wife, we have more of a romantic relationship and exchange. I'm a teacher, so I have students, and so my relationship with them is that more of a student and teacher, or like father son, right? Like there's so many different relationships that are available, and the soul gets lit up and transcends. And you notice, like, you ever been in like a really good exchange with someone, whether it's like really good S3X, time disappears, right? You're just there with that person, and you're just
Out the window.
totally, time is just not even a concern. That also happens in good conversations, right? Like we can look down and be like, holy smokes, man, we've been talking an hour and it just feels like we just got started, type of thing. That's transcendence. There, you're transcending it, right? And somebody who's higher in frequency and consciousness, they can help anchor you into those places. So you'll notice, like, I remember sometimes, like, I'm in a conversation with someone, you just don't want that to end. That's transcendence. That's you're hitting those realms where you're going above space and time, and you're just completely present with what's happening. And I mean, look, that's there's nothing that is better than S3. That is spiritual S3X. It's S3X on a higher level, because it's like, it's not physical, but that loving exchange is there. It's not really S3X in the way that we think about S3X, but we can compare it to it because it's a loving exchange.
All right. And then my last question is, you got any exercises for people, whether it be in the gym or, any S3X exercises or S3X transmutation exercises that people can do before they head on out?
Yeah, sure, man. So okay, so a really simple exercise that anyone can do is to so meditate on your organs, and imagine like a white light or a bright light just surrounding your sexual organs. And then when you feel that, like, especially if you're aroused, like, when you're aroused, you can feel like it feels like the tingling or heat. There's a sensation there.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when you're aroused, this is very powerful. You meditate on that sensation and you like capture it in this like ball of energy, and then start to circulate that ball and start to bring that ball up inside the body, and imagine that energy drawing up from your genitals up the body. Imagine like a straw going up the body from the genitals all the way up to the crown, and draw that energy. And you can imagine like a stream, like if you were sucking like a straw, and that energy was moving up the body, and it was passing through the heart and then it was passing through the throat, and then the third eye, and up and spilling up the top of the crown. And if you meditate on moving that sensation, like you actually try with your mind to move that sensation up the body, you can actually feel, once you practice this enough. And of course, in my training, I have like there's all these progressive steps to being able to do it, but you will feel that same sensation that was in the genitals now in the brain. And that's when your brain is charged up with your S3X energy. And that's when you're going to tap into the higher frequencies and those higher intelligence. And you can have like what I call like a brain orgasm, where it becomes so intense that it feels like your brain is like pulsating with energy. And what's an orgasm? An orgasm is a pulsation of energy. So when we talk about non-ejaculatory orgasms, what we're talking about, what I'm speaking of is taking that same energy that generally pulsates, which leads us to ejaculate as men, but having that same pulsation happen in your brain or in your back and distributing it throughout your body, which gives you this blissful non-ejaculatory experience. So meditate on the genitals, rotate it so that you're like capturing or working that energy up, and you're learning to move energy with your mind. Remember, wherever focus is, energy is flowing. So wherever your mind is, that's where energy is going. So if you don't want something to be in your life, like let's say someone's looking at their business and they're like, man, I wish I had more clients. Don't wish you had more clients. Imagine in a positive, loving way, you already having tons of clients coming through the door. Because your mind is exact. So you have to imagine what it is that you want and imagine as if it's already there, happening now, not sometime in the future, now. So put your mind in your genitals, circulate that ball to rotate that energy, and then move that ball, like draw it up the middle of the body, up to the heart, up to the throat, up to the third eye, then up to the crown. And you'll know if you're doing it because you'll actually start to feel your brain tingling, and you'll know that your energy has moved from your lower center to your brain and to your higher center.
That's awesome. I mean, one little quick maybe detail, because I think that when people try to capture the feeling, maybe they don't feel anything, or I know, like especially from past experience trying to move energy around, you feel you can't necessarily hook onto the energy. Like it's there, but you can't like move it up. Do you have any tips on that? Any quick tips?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons that might happen. The first is that you may like, unless you're practicing, this is why the foundation for higher energy practices is retention, because you have to have enough S3X energy in you to work with it. So if you're depleting yourself, right, all the time, you won't have enough. It's kind of like, think of like a straw, like in a cup, but the cup is like empty, or there's just a little bit of water, and you're like have to suck really hard, and you're like, it's like, right, to try to get a little bit of water. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's like if your cup is empty, your balls are empty as a man because you've depleting yourself. You have nothing to draw up. You have nothing to hook onto. So it's so much more difficult. But when you're full of energy, it's much easier. So if someone says, I'm not feeling it, there's generally two things happening. One, you don't have enough energy in you yet. So you have to practice retention to build up that energy so that you can have a heightened sensation or heightened feeling. The second thing is that you haven't done enough meditation or practices yet, or your energy body isn't open enough, and you have to open it up. So I specifically have a routine. It's about a 48-minute routine inside of my Alchemy course called the Microcosmic Orbit Opening Flow. And it opens up those energy channels. So Qigong, certain pranayama practices, so certain breathwork practices will open up your energy body and get you more and more attuned to your subtle energy. Most of us haven't worked with energy, so we're not attuned to it. Like, it's a subtle thing. So you have to be quite meditative to feel it. And the more that you practice, the easier it becomes. And the more the sensation becomes more and more tangible. So at the beginning, it might be like very weak, or you might think I'm just imagining it, nothing's happening. But the more that you practice, then the more you'll feel those sensations and you'll be able to draw it up easier. Does that
That is
answer your
gold
question?
right there.
Yeah.
That is gold.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you got to practice. This is not like again, we live in a world where people want the quick fixes and just get what's the pill to do it. This if you really want to dive into this, this requires you to put effort in. Not a ton of effort, but consistent effort. 15 to 20 minutes of the practices that I share in the alchemy training over the next 3 months to 6 months, your whole ability to work with energy, move it, and to attract will greatly increase. But you have to put in the work. You can't just do it once in a while. And it's a lifestyle as opposed to like just something you can just, something I can just try it out. I'm just going to try to have a non-ejaculatory orgasm today, right? It's like you have to prepare your body for it.
100%. And then go ahead and plug your stuff in. I know people, this is very valuable information. So if people are very interested in learning this kind of stuff and this discipline, go ahead and plug whatever you need to guide
Yeah.
people to
So
the right direction.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So if you've listened to this and you're like, man, I want to get into this, I want to learn more, the best way to connect with me is to just jump on a call or get on my schedule and talk to me, or one of my team will help you to get you enrolled. But basically what we'll do is we'll show you the process. So the way to connect with me is to go to nakuladas.com, and you can just go under the contact and contact me directly or send me a message. And again, if it's not me, it's one of my team, because we are growing. Our student base is growing. So I've hired a few people to start helping me. So that's the best way. We'll have a conversation, make sure it's a right fit, and then we can go from there. I have a free program called the free S3X Transmutation Guide. So you can take that. And again, you can get it right on my website at nakuladas.com. And of course, if you just look me up on all platforms, my best, the what I tell people, direct people to, is follow me on, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's under my name, Nakula, because there's tons of videos there, and I keep putting out videos to help you understand this work and this practice. And Instagram as well, because I post a lot of things on my Instagram as well. That's just gonna daily information and tips to help you overall as a man, help you channel that energy and understand it in a deeper level.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on as well. That's just, this made my day. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Beautiful conversation.
Man. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
All right, brother. Peace.